Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
Hey. Hi, Dennis. Hi, Prof.
Good evening, Jackie. How are you?
I'm okay, but where are you, Prof? I can't see you. Oh, okay, there you are. How are you, Prof?
Okay.
Yeah, it's cold. Prof, it's cold. It's so cold.
I hope you have heater in your place there.
No, I went to get my car. My hands are frozen. It's -9. It's cold, Prof.
Well,
yes.
Then the weatherman forecast that.
Yes, but I did when I parked. I think it got colder. But anyway, welcome to our guests, our viewers. I guess. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to focus on some bit of Black history for Black History Month, right, Prof? And how it intersects with Liberian history. I know this is a literary hour, but it encompasses history as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. So, Prof?
Yeah.
See you.
It's every now and then the question is posed, do we need Black History Month? That sort of a thing. And there are people with a variety of opinions. But I think it's very much important that we have Black History Month because there's often the need to place the concept of Black History Month or Blackness at center stage so that people have a moment to do an intense reflection, an intense assessment of where Black people have come from, their challenges, and how they overcome them and continue to be relevant.
Yeah, and so, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's important that we are celebrating Black History Month.
And in this mix of Black History Month, we want to bring Liberia into the fray because it's very interesting that this country that we call our own has played a very important and pivotal role in a lot of international events, in international intrigue. You know, every time you're reading about some portion of history, African American history, or the history of the United States, you know, Liberia rears its head, and you say, "Oh, there you are!" You know. So today we're going to discuss, I guess, a conflict, an African American conflict that's centered on Liberia. Well, not only on Liberia, on philosophies and everything, but Liberia play a pivotal role in it. So we'll start really by laying the foundation before going on to discuss Liberia's role. And we would like to discuss W.E.B. Du Bois, right? Historian, sociologist, intellectual, Pan-Africanist. So Du Bois, and we all know his book, The Souls of Black Folk and the Conservation of Races, but he was also the founder of the NAACP. Yeah. So Du Bois had gone to England. He was denied a doctorate because he was Black. He had come back disillusioned, you know. So he decided that Blacks would only excel, right, through education, through what he called a talented 10.
Yeah.
But so if let's do our first slide. But you know, Prof, he got into conflict with Booker T. Washington. Because here it is. Here's the first slide. Because Booker T had said no race can prosper until it learns that there is as much dignity in tilling a field as in writing a poem. So what Booker T wanted was not only African Americans well versed in philosophy and culture, but also men and women who were skilled. They could till the fields, they could be mechanics, they could be carpenters. So Du Bois had this concept of the talented 10, right? Actually, the talented 10 didn't really come from him, but he said that a group of African Americans who are very educated will be able to pull people up. So there are two quotes here. The spell of Africa is upon me. This is a quote. The ancient witchery of her medicine is burning my drowsy, dreaming blood. This is not a country, it is a world, a universe of itself. And it is a great black bosom where the spirit longs to die. Africa is the spiritual frontier of humankind. As such, it is our duty in the conservation of races to conserve our physical powers, our intellectual endowments, our spiritual ideals. As a race, we must strive by race organization, by race solidarity, by race unity to the realization of that broader humanity which freely recognizes in men, right? So it goes on and on. So, Prof, let's talk a little bit about Du Bois.
You know, most great people, if not all great people, especially those who either rise into leadership or have leadership foisted upon them, have so many parts.
Yes.
You hear that quote and you are determined to conclude that Du Bois really loved Africa true and true. But at other points, you hear or read Du Bois coming back and forth between what he thought and also what impact Anglo-Saxon thoughts had about Africa. So that duality, that conflict, sometimes takes some little thing away from Du Bois, especially when you come to the friction between him and Garvey.
Yeah.
You see, and sometimes you see or read the sophistication of Western education driving his thoughts and all that. But whatever the case is, Du Bois, I hope, meant well.
Yeah, and sorry,
and so the sometimes the arrogance of his education attempted to take rush over him. That's the thing I see.
because he was very well educated. You know, he was at the top of the African American elite.
Yeah.
And his philosophy actually was that not all African Americans will rise, but the talented 10.
Yeah.
You know, those groups that will go to Harvard or Yale, Harvard at and rise up, they will be the ones to lead the others.
Yes.
So the talented 10 to him was the one that will bring the others up.
Well, I guess he was Pollyannish in his thoughts. Yes, a few want to get down to the gutters about the conflict, about making sure that all blacks, the educated blacks will go out there to lift everyone up. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. In fact, the programs he thought he would set up to ensure blacks coming together, using their education, using their business acumen to bring every other person up, did not work that well, especially immediately after World War One and going into World War Two.
So if we look at the philosophy of Du Bois, yes, we will come to Garvey later, but Du Bois also, yeah, people can say, oh, he worked with people who were racist, but the thing was to achieve an end.
Yeah.
He knew that in order for the African Americans or the blacks to become educated,
Yeah.
to move up into society, they need the aid of the whites,
Yeah.
or the liberal whites, or the conservative whites, but he needed whites. So Du Bois was willing to look the other way to get his aims accomplished. And while he's working on that, here comes Marcus Garvey, right?
Yeah.
So Marcus Garvey was born in Jamaica, right? He was antithetical to Du Bois. Yeah, yes, this man, very dark skinned. Du Bois was very light.
Yeah.
Yes, Marcus Garvey coming in. And actually, Marcus Garvey had come to America to raise money for his school in Jamaica, where he was from, But when he went to Du Bois' office, and I didn't put this, but I can read it. It says that he was unable to tell, I'm quoting now, he was unable to tell whether he was in a white office or that of the NAACP.
Yeah.
Because there were so many light-skinned blacks, right? That he was like, oh, no. We have to establish the organization that would deal with blacks, right?
Authentic black.
Yes. Yes. So Garvey was like, no, this can't work. This can't work, right? So then he established the UNIA. So okay. So yes, Garvey, right there, and you can see that there's Garvey, dark skin, little plumpish, and there's Du Bois. So they were quite different in temperament, in looks, in philosophy, in everything. They were quite different.
One has to keep in mind that before Garvey arrived in the United States of America, he had done a bit of touring a good part of the world, especially the European world. And what he saw, it kind of fired his engine, as one would say.
Yeah.
So that whereas E.B. Du Bois was inviting people from the South to come to the North and get, as it were, the education they needed to remain in the United States of America,
yeah,
to make sure that they will get a piece of the national pie.
Yes.
Garvey, having done his tour and seeing what was being done to blacks almost everywhere,
yeah,
his own construct towards the advancement of the Negro,
yes,
was that he had to migrate.
Yes.
He had to emigrate to Africa. Africa would be his place of advancement.
Yeah. So
that almost immediately build or identify the dividing line between two of them. I'm talking about Garvey and Du Bois.
Yeah, and we have there are little notes, but we have Du Bois was improve the conditions of the African Americans by working with white laborers in the U.S. through the NAACP.
Yeah.
Garvey said whites would never come to accept blacks, and thus he proposed that Black Americans return to Africa, where they would live as part of a majority population and have real political power. Yeah. So that's the in between, I guess.
Yes. And again, the whole idea of working with blacks, I mean, with whites to achieve prosperity for blacks, uh, it had its own, uh, you know, it had its own challenges when you think about the life of Booker T. Washington as well.
Yes.
Booker T. Washington uh, said, as you probably said earlier on, that the the place of the black man or the place of black folk had to be learning to work with their hands,
Yes.
learning to work with their hands. At another time, we can talk about the talented 10 or what have you.
Yeah.
But so again, Du Bois was not accepting
Yes.
to that. This whole thing about education, and there. Well, uh, Booker T. Washington wanted uh, working with the hands, working with the hands, and eventually you will rise up to that sophisticated type of education that we're talking about. So that is what I said earlier, that the case of Du Bois is an interesting thing where people should get a lot more education before, you know, it,
But
it is
it,
a,
it's
Mhm.
it's very interesting because I mean I'm just asking
Yeah, go ahead.
because Booker T. Washington
Mhm.
and Garvey,
Yeah,
although Booker T wasn't about everybody leave and come to Africa,
Mhm.
their ideology was almost non-elitist.
Yes,
Yes, that look,
yes,
whether
Mhm.
you are a carpenter or you
Yeah,
let's all go to Africa. Or
yeah,
Booker T. Washington said, look, not everybody can be a philosopher.
yes,
Let's work on our skills,
yeah,
and so
Mhm.
so his for him it was more economic power.
Yes,
We can get
yes,
economic power through the works of our
yeah,
hands.
uh-huh. And
And
then you can
and,
talk
and Du
about that.
Bois says
Yes,
no, through our brain, through
yes,
through through studying,
Mhm.
philosophy and
Yeah.
things we can bring others up. So of course they differ drastically on that.
They
Yeah.
they of in the area of three of them, really, the 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 staff planted was that of how do we improve the situation? How do we create advancement for the Negro?
Hmm.
So it was that question, that hoisted question, that three of them were trying as much as possible to deal with. And come to think about it, that is all too clear in a number of fields regarding either the advancement of the black man or the advancement of humanity. I'm reading a book called A History of Christianity,
Okay.
and the whole idea of controversial questions, the whole idea of core questions of survival tend to be that way, where there are so many people who try as much as possible to answer that question. In Christianity, for instance, we talk about what is the future of humanity. So, in here, uh, not to take away from what we are discussing, what is going to be the future of the black race? What is going to be the future of the black race? And that's what these three are answering in their own vested ways. Uh, driven by their own experiences. Du Bois, until one afternoon, he saw a black hanging from a tree. The thing about racism did not impact his early life.
Except for the doctorate.
Well, yes. What I'm saying is that he grew up virtually in a cocoon.
Yes.
A protective community. He lived in a community where there was rarely a difference between the life of a black man and a white man. And as I said, until he saw a black man hanging from a tree, that it kind of impacted the rest of his life. As for Booker T. Washington, he grew up from the poorest of poor, even though it is said that one of the masters abused the mother, and that's how he was born. And Garvey, as you said earlier, had come from
Jamaica.
a different world, Jamaica. So each one of them, understandably, had a different approach. At least for Garvey and Booker T. Washington, there was, because of the background, there was a fair similarity of understanding of how the black personality will rise into respectability.
So why these two great men, why they are carrying on their I guess their daily routines in their respective areas. Du Bois trying to get more people in academia, pull the others up, and Garvey establishing a Black Star Line, a shipping company, to take people to Africa. So he's like, we're not staying here because we know we cannot be like these other people, so we are going to go. Right. So in all of that, Garvey's eyes turned towards Liberia as the place where the Black Americans will go en masse. Don't forget now, Liberia was established. CDB King was president. So everything was fine there. I mean, it was not like just the American Liberians. This was a republic. This was in the 1920s. So it was about 60 years after independence. So Garvey is saying, look, this is a country where it's already established by Blacks, and they are governing themselves. So what better way than to go there? And within that time, Liberia was about to get a loan. I think from England or America, $5 million, because they needed money for their government. Right. So Garvey approached them and said, look, I'll give you $2 million if you accept like 25,000 Blacks to come to your country. Right. What do you think about that, Prof?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bait good enough.
Yeah.
Especially when he had the other idea that there would be skill training and all that.
Yeah.
And so that would be a good thing to do. And that's how they took off. Well, again, I was talking about Du Bois. Du Bois started out by a kind of raising the profile of Garvey. But when Garvey fell in trouble regarding the operationability of his ship, see the scathing, uh, the scathing narrative that Du Bois provided, the scathing narrative on that this guy was no good, an embarrassment to. I mean, that's one of the things I didn't really treasure about Du Bois. I know everyone lives in a specific time period of life. So one would say, well, you didn't know what was up, but of course, whatever we know about those people is what has been written.
Yeah.
For Du Bois to have gone south with Garvey, yeah, was untenable. That's what I see.
And because at that point, Prof, they were already angry with each other.
Yeah.
They were already angry. They were not about to. So what happened was that if we look at the timeline, I think I have it in one of the slides there. But if we look at the timeline, we see that in 1921,
yeah,
Garvey says to CDB King or whomever, look, we will give you 2 million. Don't get any loan. We'll give you this money for us to settle in Liberia, right? So in 1921, that was in October 1921. But then in February of the following year, he sent 16-person delegation to go to Liberia, to see if this venture could work, right? But don't forget, Du Bois also had a lot of friends in government because Du Bois was like with the elite.
Yeah.
So Du Bois, the Consul General of Liberia at the time was Ernest Lyons, and I'm reading from this note. And Lyons denied them visas to go. He denied the 16 people. He said, "You're not going anywhere," But that was based on a request by Du Bois. Yeah. Even though Du Bois denied that, Lyons was his friend. So these people were denied visas. Now, why they are waiting in that 1924, why they are waiting, 1925 comes, and what happens? Du Bois, Garvey goes to jail. I'm sorry, Prof. He goes to jail for his little Black Star line. They said bill fraud. Prof, do you really think so, or do you think that Du Bois' hand was in it? Now, this is just a conspiracy theory. So just tell me, Prof.
Yeah, but the thing about it, that's what I was saying. In Du Bois, first of all, you also understand that Garvey had all this aura of braggadocio around him. In fact, the way he carried himself in the public, he at that time was seen as the energy of the black race in America,
which Du Bois did not like, because Du Bois felt that he should be the one.
That stealing his thunder was actually part of the either spoken or unspoken. That was part of the driving energy of his own life. Unless he was there, unless he was talking about blackness and all that kind of thing, nobody else should.
Yes. And also because Du Bois, Garvey was not an African American.
Yes.
He ended up from Jamaica.
Yeah, this young person, mind you, he was 28 years old now.
Yes.
Yeah. This guy comes and he's raising all this dust and all that kind of thing. It's like saying, who is this guy? Who is he? What does he know about us to talk about that? And so he became an irritant. Garvey became an irritant to Du Bois. And you will then understand why, because the guy was in jail, something that was not clearly his intentional fault, Du Bois blew it up and began to use all kinds of language to deprecate Garvey. Again, I thought that was so nice.
Yeah, so this is a Pan-Africanist. and he's against his friend, you
Yeah.
know, and all of that. But so Garvey now is making these overtures, right,
Yeah.
to CB King in Liberia.
Yeah.
And in the library, and there's a letter that in 1921, before Garvey goes to jail, CDB King writes Garvey.
Yeah.
So CDB King is a friend of Garvey, you know,
Yeah.
even though Du Bois has power with his with the elites.
Yeah.
CDB King writes Garvey, and I will try and read the letter because it's so small. It says, "Thanks for your kind letter of the 7th instant with the enclosure. When you were in Washington, Mr. Johnson of our mission said that you intended to call on me during a certain afternoon, and accordingly, I remained at home to receive you. I suppose it afterwards became inconvenient for you to call as intended.
Yeah.
It is hoped that I will have the pleasure of meeting you on your return to Washington, if anon, or when I'm sometimes in New York.
Yeah.
Your suggestions that a statement be published over my signature,
Yeah.
setting forth the position of Liberia in response of, oh, he wrote this to Du Bois, sorry, in response to Mr. Garvey's movement, insofar as they appear to relate to Liberia, is timely, and the signed statement is herewith enclosed for publication in your paper. With sentiments of high esteem, I remain yours sincerely, CDB King." So that so that means that that the guy, so Du Bois had already written CDB King. He was going to meet CDB King, and he said that, look, why don't we write something, some letter about your position with Garvey, and
Yeah.
put your signature, and CDB King agrees. Yeah, he says, yeah, you know, you can you can go ahead and do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Huh. So, Prof, what do you think about that?
And of course, you can see at the very beginning that things will have turned out well. Is it not the letter, the report that was?
No, that's not it. That's
No,
not that
no, no,
hasn't
no.
come yet.
I'm saying, is it not the letter report that was intercepted that
No,
turned?
that's
I'm
not it.
saying that I'm not talking about the letter you are reading. And
No. I'm saying that this letter that he said you can put it in the newspaper.
no,
That's when Du Bois wrote to say that the Liberian government does not want Garvey in Liberia. That came a little bit after.
okay,
Yeah,
well, all right. The letter he's going to. Okay.
yeah,
Well, what in earnest I was saying is that really Garvey initially was having a foothold
yeah,
into, and then comes the trashing letter
yeah. But
report
yeah,
that eventually turns things upside down. And so, you know, when the overture is made to, or Du Bois makes the overture that CDP King is responding to,
yeah.
then we can understand why the whole thing
Okay.
disintegrated. That's what I was saying.
Okay, but so I'm going to so in all of this mix now, when poor Garvey goes to jail, right? Don't forget the president at the time was Coolidge, and
Yeah,
Coolidge,
yeah.
you know, at that time the blacks in America were not going to vote for Coolidge.
Yes.
They felt like, this man, you know, we don't like him. He doesn't
Yeah.
like us. So then someone whispered in his ear that, look, what you need to do, and I'm sure, don't hate me, but I'm sure Du Bois had a hand in it. They said that what you have to do is to appoint a black ambassador extraordinaire.
Yeah.
So the black ambassador is not to any country, but he's there. So of course they appoint who else? Du Bois.
Yes.
Sorry.
He did his connection thing.
Yes. They but so in the beginning, the government of Liberia is looking favorably on this $2 million that they would get.
Yes.
Settle these 25 to 30,000 people in Liberia. poor Garvey, he tries to raise his money through his shipping line.
Yeah.
The American government arrests him because they say, my man, you're doing mail fraud.
Yeah.
He goes to jail. At that time, he's in jail. Du Bois is working.
Yeah. You know.
Du Bois become ambassador extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Right? He's there. And he's friendly with a lot of people. This Du Bois, huh? Yeah, he's friendly with a lot of people.
Well, that was the perk of his education.
Yes.
You know, at the
Yes.
time, there weren't that many educated blacks. And so the few that were there were seen as the collective voice of the black race in America. And so he had that clout.
Yeah.
And again, that is where we can understand that either he or nobody else
Yes.
should be on the platform.
And then while poor Garvey is in jail, Prof, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, and I'm sorry, I will be more serious. But while Garvey is in jail, lo and behold, CDB King invites Du Bois to Liberia for his second inauguration in
Yes, because already the connections have been made.
Yes, yes.
One of the ironies is that Du Bois, I think, is coming from the third Congress, the third Pan-Africanist Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And it is from there that he is now invited to, having set his little things in place. That is how he is invited, or he is seconded by the American government to go and attend the inauguration of CDB King. So he has all the clout.
Prof, I'm telling you, this who know you is everywhere. Listen to this.
Oh, yes, yes.
Said, in September 1923, right?
Yeah.
Du Bois decided to attend President King's inauguration, right?
Yes.
At the conclusion of the Third Pan-African Congress, right?
Yes, yes.
So he told William Henry Lewis,
yeah,
a black attorney and a leading Massachusetts Republican,
yes.
who served as Assistant Attorney General in the Taft administration, William Taft administration.
Yes, the earlier one.
Then the Attorney General now went and told President Coolidge, because now it's President Calvin Coolidge, that he could make a friendly gesture to Liberia by sending Du Bois to Liberia as a special envoy.
Yes.
Right? So then he also explained to the President's secretary that Du Bois' trip to Liberia, and I'm quoting now, would be a good chance to play a little politics, which will not cost anybody anything, unless the Department of State desires to make a small contribution towards Du Bois' expense account.
Yeah.
You know, so they even pay for Du Bois to go to Liberia. And poor Garvey,
he has all the clout. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because they said that Coolidge was afraid that he would lose the Negro vote.
Yes.
So he made a symbolic appointment. Listen to what it was called: Envoy Extraordinary, Minister Plenipotentiary. But listen to this, Prof. No salary was attached. Prof. I will leave it with you.
The guy wanted his seal to be well piped with political win and everything, and so he goes there. I can imagine him walking from the ship and all that.
Yeah, but in a way, Prof, Du Bois also loved Africa, because when he got down in Monrovia, right, he said, and I quote, "When shall I forget the night I first set foot on Africa's soil? I, 6th generation in descent from my stolen forefathers." You know, so he talk about that a lot. Yeah.
Of course, when you think about the royal treatment he got, He couldn't have said anything less than that, though.
But if you look at the letter that he wrote, his writings after he was in Liberia, I mean, didn't he see what Garvey was saying? Because he talks about, how the Americo-Liberians have extended democracy to include the natives.
Yeah.
He talked about the native people, and these people who are working for the Americo-Liberians. So it's like he didn't see.
Yeah, but the thing about this is, remember some time ago when we were talking about the language issue?
Yeah.
And we talk about Alexander Cromwell.
Cromwell.
Yeah, Cromwell. You know, the thing about not understanding and believing you understand. Not understanding and yet you believe you understand situations.
Yes.
This approach to Africa, this approach to Liberia has to a large extent damaged some of those people who may have had goodwill. The idea that you don't understand something, but you want to place yourself as if you had ample knowledge about that thing. That is something that was the undoing of Du Bois, just as it was the undoing of Cromwell in this time. Yeah. You don't know anything about the people's language. You don't know about the intrigues and all that kind of thing. What you wanted to, and when you came to talk about that, you were what? You were dismissive of those things. In the case of Du Bois, you know, thinking that he understood the chemistry between the native Liberian and the settler Liberian, what have you, and therefore you thought your knowledge was superior, and therefore you used it without even making gestures to make sure you understood the case very well.
Yeah, so of course Du Bois comes back and he gives his report, you know, and everything. But let's come now to even Garvey, right? Garvey sends an envoy because Garvey still wants to do this thing, and he says to Eli Garcia, "You go, right? You go ahead, look at Liberia, and see if everything is okay for my people to come."
Yeah.
So Garcia goes, right? And Garcia writes, is that my phone? No. And Garcia writes a report to Garvey to tell him what he saw in Liberia.
Yeah.
And this Eli Garcia, look, our guests who are listening, they have to start writing now because this man, this is not email. This is all in time, what is it called? Telegram.
Yeah.
You are in somebody's country. You are there to make sure the country is okay for people to come.
Mm-hmm.
And you are sending a telegram knowing well that these people are going to read the telegram.
Yes, you can see the folly of these guys.
Yes, and he writes to Garvey. And what does he say to Garvey? He says he says that and the confidential report is called The True Conditions in Liberia. And he said that, I'm quoting, please, nobody get angry with me, I'm quoting. He said the Americo-Liberians are the most despicable element in Liberia. They use the Africans as slaves and employ their education to obtain government jobs in which they practice wholesale corruption. Sorry, I'm sorry. You know? And then he tells Garvey, he says, because Garvey, okay, now, here's something. So you see, Du Bois was right when Du Bois said that Garvey wanted to be an emperor in Liberia. Because Eli Garcia's letter or telegram to Garvey is saying to Garvey, don't let them know your intention. He said, don't let them know that you want to participate in Liberian politics. And you want to enlighten the African tribes on the hinterland. So Garvey wanted to educate the indigenous people. He said, remove any possible idea of opposition, and you will not prevent us having a strong foothold in the country to act as we see best for their own betterment and that of the race at large. So Garcia is right. He's right. Garvey, and he said it to Garvey, oh, the free people who came here, they are the worst people in Liberia because they have made the indigenous people their slaves.
Yeah.
And I know you want to come and maybe be president or get involved in politics, but don't tell them. Don't tell them.
Yeah.
Right? You just wait until everything is okay,
And then
you can come and do what you want to do. And you can even educate the indigenous people, but right now is not the time. Prof?
In fact, the program of Garvey was seen as a threat in many cycles of the Westerners.
Yeah.
And so, according to the semi-autobiography of the wife,
yes,
of the wife, he had been threatened by colonial powers out there, to not set foot in Africa, in real or disguised form, because, like people say, you will not tell the story, you will not live to tell the story.
Yeah.
So all these things, speculating, were enough to make some of the power movers in Liberia get a little jittery.
Yeah.
And so that all that added on to his own problems.
And I find it strange that I think CDB King's, I think his father-in-law, Gabriel Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson.
Marcus Garvey said to him, okay, you will be our eyes and ears in Liberia. And we're going to pay you. And CDB King said, no. So CDB King sent the guy to Fernando Po to be his ambassador there. He said, no, we don't.
Especially when he hears that this guy will be getting
12,000.
12,000 in those days, 12,000.
He said, no. You know. So anyway, now Du Bois says that, and I quote, he says that Marcus Garvey is without doubt the most dangerous enemy of the Negro race in America and in the world. He is either he is either a lunatic or a traitor who should be locked up or sent home, right? And so that's it now. So there's really, and
at that time, not to cut you off, and at that time, to have a Du Bois making that assessment of Garvey, that was next to lynching.
Yes.
That was next to lynching the guy.
Yes. So anyway, when they saw this thing that Eli Garcia wrote, how they say he was saying the American Liberians are bad, they are treating the indigenous people badly. CDB King waited. This man did it. He waited. He got the telegram and he waited. Until they had sent all their equipment. They were making plans to come.
Up to 50,000.
When the equipment came, he deported all of the people. Every single one he deported. Did he send the equipment back, Prof? Or
I think I know he
so he deported them. And you know, another thing is that what's his name? Gabriel Johnson. He was on Du Bois' side. I mean on Garvey's side. You know, but
who would not be on Garvey's side when the pot was going to boil?
You know, so they sent him to Fernando Po as the ambassador, so he couldn't do anything. You know, and you know, and the sad thing is, because we always come back now to Liberia and Black History Month, right? So of course, Du Bois says Du Bois put a wrench in it. So the 30,000 people or more who were to come, they didn't come. Liberia didn't get the $2 million. Garvey went to jail for mail fraud. He did get out of jail, and he still tried you know. And in all of this is when, Greg Mittman showed this in his beautifully written book, and the Empire of Rubber. So Firestone comes to Liberia, and the sad part is that they gave the king government gave Firestone the land that Garvey wanted. Where Garvey wanted to settle his people is what Firestone got. You know, and yeah. So and then the legislature too, they were like, oh, don't worry about Garvey, you know, let's give concession to Firestone Tire and Rubber Company, right? So they said yes, and they gave it to so Garvey's dream was over.
Yeah. And again, coming back to the whole idea of knowing what the problem is and yet not being definitive about how to approach the problem has been a serious conundrum in the case of the Black personality and in the case of Liberia. I always come to the point of relevance, that other word, the idea that if my voice and my space are not guaranteed, no other person's voice and space should be guaranteed. For someone who is ego-driven, like Du Bois, that won't be far from the truth. Except he remained the commander, directing people here and there. No other person ought to. And in that process, so many other things went wrong. Even though he may have had good intentions, the thing he wanted to do didn't pan out right.
And you and I, this show is all about making connections. Every time we read a book, when we come to discuss something, there's a connection with that other book, or there's a connection with an event. And I see this as really what we call critical juncture, in Liberia's history. Because if you look at Garvey saying to Liberia, we're bringing 25,000 to 30,000 African Americans to settle in this land, right? Which is now Firestone, right? And you bring these people, but we're going to give you 2 million. But then the legislature, CDB King, all these, even Du Bois and all of these people, when they have vilified and have destroyed Garvey, Liberia goes and takes a $2.7 million loan from the Finance Corporation of America, which is actually created by Firestone.
Yes, but disguised in such a way. Can you just imagine that?
As Firestone. So in effect, you have the $2 million that you were getting free.
Right? Free.
You were going to get your people skilled, because Du Bois said there were going to be skilled people coming, engineers. Garvey. And you say no, and you sell your land to Firestone. Not only giving them the land, you get a $2.7 million loan from Firestone. How?
And you are going to send in natives who are mostly not going to be paid.
Yes. How? But it's legislature.
But there's it's our story will continue to be a sad story until new voices, new creative and strong voices rise to make things better in that country. Unfortunately, even the native populations that have in recent times risen to power have also become many of them have become damaged goods, towing the line of the elite and all that.
Yeah, and so of course Firestone comes, but trying to wrap up. The sad part, right? Because Garvey comes out of jail and he tries again. Once again, he begs them not to give the land to Firestone.
Yeah.
And of course, they don't listen to him.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and the sad part, of course, is that Garvey never gets to Africa.
No, he never. But again, as I was telling you, his life was also threatened.
Yes.
Yeah, his life, like what comes out in his wife's book, his life was threatened because this guy he had a revolutionary mind, and his getting to Liberia would have empowered natives in other countries of Africa to stand up for their rights. If you read, I'm sure you read all the things that we talked about, and it was out of his influence, the Nkrumahs, the Kenyattas, the Kenneth and all those. It is where their power of rising to raise voices for independence over time. That was the influence of Marcus Garvey's call for an independent Africa.
So after the land is given to Firestone now, right? And I have something that I want to read, but it's not long. So Du Bois now, I think Du Bois figured out that what have I done?
Yes.
Right? Because what he decides to do now is to write Firestone, right? And Greg Midman puts that in his book as well.
Yes.
So Du Bois is writing Harvey Firestone, the guy who and he's saying, and I'm sorry, for some reason the PowerPoint I wanted to put up is not working, but it's dated October 1925.
Yeah.
And so he says, "My dear sir," and this is addressed to Mr. Harvey Firestone.
Yeah.
Early in the year 1924, I was in Liberia as special representative of the President of the U.S. at the inauguration of President King, with the rank of Minister Plenipotentiary and Envoy Extraordinary. During that time, I accompanied the residence minister, Salomon Hood, and the rubber expert of the Firestone Company to look over the rubber forest with a view to deciding whether it would be worthwhile for the Firestone Company to invest in Liberia. Yeah. So anyway, he goes on a 3-page letter. But listen to what he says. He says he's asking him, "I suggest, therefore, that you choose your governing industrial personnel from the following groups: white American rubber experts, that's the first; educated and trained Liberians; colored Americans or educated of education and experience." So this guy is saying to Firestone, "Look, I know you're coming to Liberia, but there are educated young Liberians.
Recruit wisely.
African Americans. So please choose those people.
Recruit wisely.
Recruit wisely." Unfortunately, his 3-page letter, Firestone never replied.
Such a disgrace.
Never replied.
A slap in the face.
Yes, never replied. So that's so sad.
It's not. I think we have to understand that Harvey had his own business acumen, and so it's like, who is this guy with all his education? Who is this guy to come dictate to me? I will have all the money and all that kind of a thing. So it was one of those things. Say, man, look, you put that thing in a trash can. Who has time for that foolishness?
Yeah. So it's so sad. And the thing is that Du Bois, at the end, he realized what Garvey said. Du Bois got disillusioned with America.
Yeah.
He moved to Ghana.
Yes.
He died in Ghana.
That's where his soul is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a Du Bois Institute, because when I was
Yes.
in Ghana these past
Yeah.
3 weeks, I
Yeah.
went there. Yeah, there's a Du
Yeah.
Bois Institute, you
Yeah.
know?
A thriving one too. Yes.
Yeah.
But
But look, mhm.
again, it is this thing about the American machine of power.
Yes.
And Du Bois, sadly, made so much of his education. I'm not saying that to trash his education, but he saw that as, you talk about uppity Negro, he saw that as the what have you. But these people didn't think anything of him. People didn't think anything of him. And sometimes when we are talking these things, it brings, as one old man said, when we are talking new things, then old things kind of feel an appetite to join. Of late, uh, con, Colin Powell, his when he died, his secretary, one who had been a shadow to him and what have you, he spoke about the sadness of gullibility in the black person who thinks he or she has achieved so much that when white people are showing faces and what have you, they take things for granted and think that these people have really taken them into what? Into some confident way of addressing them and all that kind of thing. But the guy said one of the things that Colin Powell, in his last days, he came to realize was the respect, the accord, and all those things that he was getting. These guys were playing to him. They were just playing to him. And they didn't trust him, they didn't believe him, and all that kind of a thing. And by the time Colin Powell came to know that it was just done, the backbiting and all that kind of thing, the backhanded treatment of him and what have you, it came full cycle before he left this world. I thought about what that assistant to Colin Powell said at the time of Colin Powell's death to what I'm talking about here, we are talking about, which has to do with Du Bois. You have to tread cautiously. That's the thing. That's the thing about it. And
Because
feeling to tread cautiously can be your undoing if you are a black personality.
Because, Prof, you see, I think that, and I always say, and we do that a lot on the show, what is the underneath of
Yeah.
things?
Yes.
You see, every time you see someone pushing to go somewhere, you know, like say, oh, this person won't be in government. If they think that they are fighting to go to, that unit is not inclusive.
Yeah.
It become an elitist place that they want to go. Everybody, instead of looking at what's underneath, to say, let's destroy this structure.
Yes.
And make one that works.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be part of that elite structure, you know? So instead of saying, oh, why can we all do this? Start looking, why is it that we all cannot do this?
Yes.
There must be some limitations built into this thing.
Yes.
That stops us from accessing what these other people are accessing, you know? So now let's look at what is it that supports this structure.
Yeah.
And either we break it down to build a new structure that is inclusive, or we destroy it altogether. You know, and some of us never look at and question, you know, why is it that some of us get there and others don't? You know, and I think that's very important. But anyway, so even Garvey's wife, you know, she got into a lot of arguments with the guy who took over when Garvey was in jail. You know, so there are a lot of underlying things. Garvey's life, But we come down to the legacy of Garvey. you know, like you were saying, and like I said, the PowerPoint is not working. But one of the people who really Garvey left a legacy on was Azikwe. Yes,
Nnamdi Azikiwe, yeah.
Nagbe Azikwe, Vice President of Nigeria.
Nnamdi
Right?
Azikiwe, yes.
Yeah, because in his memoirs, and I'm reading now, he recounted his encounter with Garveyism in the 1920s, right? And when he read a letter of Marcus Garvey, which was a provisional, who was identifying himself as a provisional president of Africa, you know, and the motto of UNIA was one God, one aim, one destiny. So Azikwe said that Garvey gave him a new way of life, of dignity and freedom.
Yeah.
Right. So he really liked Marcus Garvey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said that Garvey's book struck the first blow for a new Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he of course he became the first president. And then we have Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay.
An Africanist.
Osagifo, yes.
Yeah. He's and just a quote from Kwame Nkrumah. He said, and I quote, "Of all the literature that I studied, the book that did more than any other to fire my enthusiasm was Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey."
Right, yeah.
Right, yeah. So throughout his life, Nkrumah always referred to Marcus Garvey. Yeah.
And we should remember too that Garvey was fired on. In other words, he was motivated, he was inspired by the autobiography of Booker T. Washington, Up from Slavery.
Yes, Up from Slavery, yeah.
He read that book and he said, you know, I'm going to go this way and see what I can do.
but also in here's a little note that I made in Kwame Nkrumah's speech.
Yeah.
When he became president, he said, and I quote, "Here I wish I could quote Marcus Garvey. Once upon a time," he said, "that he looked through the whole world to see if he could find a government of a Black people.
Yeah.
He looked around, he did not find one, and he said he was going to create one. Marcus Garvey did not succeed, but here today, the work of Rousseau, the work of Marcus Garvey, and the work of Agré, the work of Joseph Ephraim, the work of illustrious men who have gone before us has come to reality at this present moment." That was at the independence of Ghana. Yeah. So it was sad that he never went to Africa, Prof.
Yeah, you know, that's the, again, they will not say that, but that was the fear, you know, that fear he infused in the colonialists.
Yeah.
The imperialists. He infused that. He said, this guy, you know, this guy, just like you talk about Nat Turner. Nat Turner instilled a lot of fear in the white population, so that even though they killed him, that fear never went away. In the case of Marcus Garvey, the idea that he arrived in America at a time that the ordinary Black folk were in doldrums of depression.
Yeah.
And he came in and he lifted their spirit. He said, "What are you talking about? You people are great people. You people were kings and queens. Nobody should what? Nobody should drag you into the doldrums of inferiority and what have you." So firing out and making them to feel that they were somebody and what have you, that was something that the West could not accept. And so they would do everything to, in the end, what they do, they said, "Agree that you will go to your home Jamaica and never come back here again." And we will send you on your way. And that's what they did. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
I think that some of the opposition to Garvey was simply because he was not from there.
Mm-hmm.
He was not from the United States.
Yeah.
It was the fact also that one of the things that we touched briefly on was that Garvey saw the colorism in
Yeah.
African culture, or
Yeah.
in Black culture,
Yeah.
you know, and whereas Du Bois said there was no colorism, he
Ah.
must have been blind, because
Mm-hmm.
most of the people in the NWACP who worked with him, as
Yeah.
Garvey said, were all
Yeah.
light skinned.
Yeah.
And Garvey turned it around and said, no, the pure blacks,
Yes.
where they want to be,
Yeah.
respected. So there
You
were so
you,
many different.
there was that's part of every generation produces such people
Yeah,
like what Garvey was saying. And Tim Scott said there's no racism in America, right? Tim
yeah,
Scott from the South, he says no racism in so those are the things.
yeah. So I want to read a quote from Kwame Nkrumah
Yeah.
in 1961, and then a
Mhm.
quote from Garvey, to see how Garvey legacy still continues. So
Yes.
this is Kwame Nkrumah's quote. Quote: "I can see no security for African states
Mhm.
unless African leaders like ourselves have realized beyond all doubt that salvation for Africa lies in unity.
Yeah.
For in unity lies strength.
Mhm.
And as I see it, African states must unite or sell themselves out to imperialist and colonialist exploiters for
Yeah.
a mass of pottage,
Yeah.
or disintegrate individually."
Individually, yeah.
Now, that's Kwame Nkrumah, 1961. Here is Garvey, 1923. And I quote: "At the present time, the world is not producing enough food to feed all its inhabitants.
Mhm.
The strong are fed and weak starve.
Mhm.
That is why there are famines in certain countries, even though these countries produce certain things for human consumption.
Yeah.
The strong go there and take the food and send it home to Great
Mhm.
Britain and France, and go into Africa, take out the products and ship them away to feed
Yeah.
Europeans, and leave Africans to starve.
Yeah.
The strong will always live at the expense of the weak."
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey, 1923, Prof.
Yeah.
So you see,
1920.
so when it comes to legacy, Garvey legacy still remains.
Mhm.
Unity, like Africans have to unite, Liberia have to unite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the word that is often said is that you can kill the dreamer, as often said about Martin Luther King Jr. You can kill the dreamer, but you can never ever kill the dream.
yeah, yeah,
You can never ever kill the dream.
yeah. So it's very interesting, that our country has was feted, fought over, and what a difference it would have made if they had accepted the $2 million
What a difference.
and bring in engineers,
Yes.
doctors, skilled people,
Yeah.
and with no loan. You are not
Yeah.
going to take any loan, but you
Yes.
take $2.5 million
Mhm.
from Firestone
Mhm.
loan, and you pay interest
Yes.
just because
Exorbitant interest. Yes.
one man
Exorbitant interest.
who had no interest in Liberia
Yeah.
persuaded all of you,
Yeah.
and just a little telegram that Ili Garcia should not have sent.
Yes.
You put the country in a loan. I'm sure you pay over $4 million
Of
later.
course. Of
You
course.
know, so
Usury. Usury has been part of capitalism.
and like we say, the book Why Nations Fail, right? Nations fail because you look at critical junctures in a nation's history,
Yeah.
in a nation's lifespan, lived
Yeah.
experiences, and the decisions that they make at those
Yeah.
junctures,
Yes.
whether for good or evil.
Yes.
That's the critical point where a
Yeah.
country goes, haywire
Yeah.
or not.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So
a,
it's
it's a
very
fact.
interesting, Prof. Now we're talking so much, we forgot to read comments. Let's read. Raymond Clark is watching from
Yeah.
Dallas. Hi,
Okay.
Raymond. Eugenia. Hi, Eugenia. Eugenia is here. Prince
Yeah.
Kamara, one of our faithful friends, is here.
Okay.
Pepper Tobagi says, oh, sorry, I should be putting this thing on and I'm not. I'll go back up. I put Raymond. Raymond says hi. He's watching. Eugenia says hi. She's watching. Princess here. Pepper says self-hate, just like it's 2 as in Liberia after they were resettled. Self-hate, just like what happened among the mixed race blacks and the very dark freed slaves and native Western Africans.
Yeah.
The value of vocational training. That's how the Booker T. Washington Institute was built in Liberia.
Yes.
The best continuous boarding school in Western Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prince says there are a timeline to the invitation of inclusion of the natives. Kou says, great point, Dr. Nagbe. So Prof. Kou is correct in saying you're okay. Noel Brown says you cannot steal free money, but you can steal from the loans.
Yeah.
Do not take these crooked politicians seriously.
Yeah.
Haruna Keita said this is why objective history is necessary to shape the sense of purpose of the nation. Yeah, I agree. Haruna says keep Juba. And she says this person said Kwame Nkrumah should have listened to Totman.
What did you say?
Yeah, but what I would do is I couldn't read the entire letter that Du Bois wrote to Firestone.
Yeah.
And we know that Firestone never replied, the poor man. But if you have
out of spite.
Yeah, out of spite. Like to say, how dare you, black man, write me to tell me what to do with my own company?
And who cares about your education? I don't care whether you get all these doctorate degrees.
Yeah. So and before we close, we want to say thank you. But the letter that Du Bois wrote, you can find it here. I just send it up. So it's right there. You can go there, you click it, you read the whole 3 pages that this poor man was begging, Yeah, but we thank you for spending some time with us today. We're always here at 6 o'clock on Fridays. We usually talk about literature. We just thought we could discuss this because it's Black History Month.
Yes.
But and we know Black History Month is every day.
Yes.
But they've designated February, so we will talk a little bit about it. Next week we will have another, maybe a literary thing about poetry and things like that. But we want to thank you all for joining us. Like we say, we are always here at 6 o'clock. Sometimes Prof and I, it's so cold today, Prof. Oh my God, it's below.
Just bundle up very well, please.
Yeah, I know usually I'm doing drink or eat when I'm in here, but I'm drinking hot tea because my Lord is cold, Prof. Yeah, I pray for everybody out there. And so Prof, I'm going to leave the last words to you.
No, again, our work here, or the conversation we always hold, has to do with the uplifting of things that relate to Liberia, and in this session, how the Liberian case intersects with the diaspora blacks, African Americans and what have you. The need to always pose questions that eventually will rack our minds until hopefully we find those answers that are going to keep us on the path to respectability. If we are not on that path, to bring us to that path. Those are the things we talk about. So if there is an intersection of literature and history, we don't shy away. We talk about those things. Because at the end of it, what are we talking about? We are talking about understanding the life that we are living, understanding the life that we ought to live, so that all good and really positive things will help us grow, not only us, but our generations yet unborn.
Generations yet unborn. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So, like as we said before, thank you so much for joining us. For this little piece of history on Du Bois and Garvey and C.D.B. King, Calvin Coolidge, Firestone, and all in between. Yeah. For those of you in the Northeast or where it's snowing, we say keep warm. It's extremely cold. Yeah, be safe. Bundle up, and we ask that you share the warmth. Be nice, Prof.
Yes, ma'am.
Bundle up today. And whether you are for Du Bois, whether you believe that Du Bois did the right thing, whether you're for Garvey, we are all Liberians, and Garvey and Du Bois and the others, and Booker T, they all talk about African unity. So let's try to be united as a people, as Africans and as Liberians. As we always say, there's no country that's 100% perfect, and there's no country that's 100% bad. I mean, so love your country wherever you find yourself. Love the people that you're with, and we see you next week. And don't forget, we are all Liberians.
Yes.
Prof, stay warm.
Alrighty, you drive safely home.
Okay.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.